fed up with the way they're treated at work. We need to turn that mood into real organisation on behalf of the working class.
Enough is enough.
There's always another crisis, and it's always workers who pay the price. We've suffered the biggest pay squeeze in history, and workers become all about working harder and faster for less. And now they want you to pay for it all again. Well, it's time somebody else paid the price.
Things can't go on like this.
Record profits for big business, record number of billionaires, record wealth for the top 10%. But life is getting harder for everyone else.
You always make the sacrifices, yet they always reap the rewards. None of this is inevitable.
It's a political choice, your need or their greed.
So it's time everyone in this country who's got a rotten landlord, who's got a low wage, who's got in-work benefits, who's going to a food bank, who can't get a doctor's appointment, who can't get housing. It's about time we all stood up together and said, enough is enough.
This cost of living crisis affects us all.
This is not just about rail workers or cleaners.
Posties, engineers or call centre workers.
Or nurses, or teachers, or firefighters.
It's about you and every workplace and every community across this country.
It's time for a campaign that draws the line.
It's time to say,
Enough is enough.
Fair pay, affordable bills, enough to eat and a decent place to live. These things are not luxuries. They're your rights.
This is a campaign to bring people together.
For a real pay rise, to slash energy bills, to end food poverty and for decent homes for all, and to finally tax the rich and big business.
if you agree, share this video, spread the word.
And sign up today at weSayEnough.co.uk.
We can't be divided. We need everybody campaigning for a better deal.
We will be organising rallies, we will be forming community groups, and we will be on picket lines.
We're going to be standing up for ourselves.
We're going to fight.
We're not all in this together, we never have been. The people that are in this together are working class people who've been mugged for far too long.
It's time to say enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
It's time to channel anger into action.
Listen, I'm coordinating Enough is Enough campaign up in Scotland, and this was launched just a number of weeks ago, and there's been over 500,000 people across the whole of the UK signed up to the campaign. There's tens of thousands of people signed up in Scotland, and as you can see tonight, there is thousands of people all up and down this country coming together for these initial launch rallies, which is absolutely fantastic to see. But I think what that tells you is that working class people are absolutely fed up with the attacks on their living standards. They're absolutely sick, fed up. Attacks on their living standards in a country where there is a record number of billionaires and big businesses are posting record profits. The issue is not that there's not enough money, the issue is who owns the money and what they do with it. The answers to the issues that we are currently facing are not going to be found from politicians and in political chambers. It is going to be found in places like this. It's going to be won in workplaces and communities and be campaigning on the streets. So it's really important that you are here tonight, because what you'll hear tonight is about working class organisations, organising working class people and organising to win for working class people. Enough is Enough is going to build more working class solidarity in communities up and down this country. We're going to be supporting workers in picket lines, and we're going to be winning for working class communities. We've got some great speakers for you tonight, and we're going to have the first speaker in a wee minute. I'm just going to make a public announcement because it is very warm in here. So there is water available, it is available through at the bar. So if anybody does feel a wee bit warm and they need some water, you'll need to go through the doors through to the bar, but there is water available. The first speaker for you tonight is leading Scotland's trade union movement. She is supporting every worker in this country that is taking action for fair pay and to protect their terms and conditions. The first speaker is the General Secretary of the STUC, Foyer.
Hello Glasgow, hello my friends, hello my comrades, and hello all of the people that I don't know yet, but I'm sure I'll get to know you. I'm really, really proud to join this Enough is Enough platform tonight, and I want to bring the support of Scotland's whole trade union movement to this campaign, because it's crucial that we all unite at this time to achieve change. And it's crucial that we help build a broad and an angry movement that goes beyond the boundaries of trade unions alone, one that unites our class to become an unstoppable force to demand real changes to our economy. And it's absolutely brilliant to see such a huge turnout tonight here in the city of Glasgow. You can feel the solidarity and the energy building, and I've felt that solidarity and that energy building right across Scotland as workers have flocked to support other workers taking action on our picket lines. Because the ordinary working people of Scotland are waking up. We're waking up to the lies that we've been told for too long by the politicians, and trade unionists on the ground are leading the way in this fight back, because workers are realising that the politicians are not going to change things unless we force them to. So yes, we are on the offensive. We are demanding real change and real action right now from every single level of government. And that's why over recent weeks we've seen CWU members on strike at Royal Mail, at the Post Office, and at BT. Big up the CWU. We salute you. And that's why we've seen the RMT and the other rail unions on strike in our rail networks. Come on, the RMT. We salute you. And that's why we've seen the fantastic cleansing workers take the fight to our councils across Scotland. Come on, the cleansing workers. And we've even seen our NUJ comrades, the journalists, taking strike action at our newspapers. Come on, the NUJ. And so many other disputes across small private sector companies in areas as wide as offshore oil and gas, distribution, manufacturing, and the list goes on and on and on. And already we're seeing real results from workers taking this action collectively. Workers standing together and saying, enough is enough, we demand a decent standard of living. It's that people power of those unionised workers that's dragged Scotland's First Minister to the bargaining table to give our local government workers a pay deal that's even worth considering. Now it'll be for our members to decide if that offer's good enough. But now they're considering a consolidated pay rise worth up to 11%. That's £2,000 for the lowest paid, rather than what they started out with, which was a 2% rise worth less than £400. That is progress. That is the power of collective action and trade unions. But we're nowhere near finished yet. We've forced a significant intervention to be made in local government, but we're not going to take the pressure off the Scottish Government or anyone else until every worker in Scotland gets a decent pay offer. So that's why we need to get our arms around the next actions that are coming. We need to give hands-on support to our teaching unions. And we need to support our unions in further education and higher education. And we need to support our civil service unions. All of whom are working very hard, taking their ballots forward and getting themselves strike ready as they continue to rank up the pressure across public sector employers and on our Scottish Government. And of course, we will continue to support our comrades in the rail unions and in the CWU with their ongoing fight, because that will take as long as it takes, and we will be there until those members achieve proper victory. So my message to every single worker in Scotland is this: your fight is our fight, your struggle is our struggle, and wherever workers are collectivising and fighting back, the STUC and other trade unions will be there to support you and to help you win, because that's solidarity. And that's why we'll also be marching on the Scottish Parliament tomorrow morning. And I hope every single one of you can do all you can to get there, and tell your friends and your family to get there too. We are mobilising because while we welcome the First Minister agreeing with the STUC, actually, that we face a humanitarian crisis, the announcements on rent and rail ticket freezes, and we support the increase in the child payment and the programme for government, we also know that these measures don't go far enough. And in the absence of a government in Westminster that even pretends to care about the poor, we need a Scottish Government to go much further and much faster to protect people from what lies ahead. So tomorrow we'll be sending the message loud and clear that we are not satisfied. We demand more action. We need them to bring forward a radical budget, because these are radical times that we're facing. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting sick and tired of hearing about the well-being economy. I'm sick of hearing about the fair work agenda. I'm sick of hearing about all of these initiatives that aren't making a real difference, because this is a country where low pay is still endemic. And I'm also sick of hearing the Westminster blame game. The Scottish Government... If they are on the people's side, as they claim to be, the Scottish Government have to do everything possible within their existing powers to deal with this emergency, because the new Tory Government is going to provide more problems than solutions for ordinary workers. And they're not planning on seeking a democratic mandate anytime soon. So tomorrow, we're not only going to be demanding action from the Scottish Government, real action on a decent pay rise for every public sector in Scotland, we're also going to be demanding real action, not just a rent freeze till March, but also long-term rent capping. We want to see real action on setting up a public energy and infrastructure company to take forward a green retrofitting programme and make our housing fit for purpose. Insulate our homes. We want real action on using their taxation powers to properly tax the rich and the high earners. They've got the power to do it now. the profitable businesses, tax wealth, create the size of budget that we need rather than the current approach of robbing Peter to pay Paul and making cuts because we're making uplifts to others. And we need real action on bringing back our buses as well as our trains into public control and ensuring that they get the investment they need to deliver high quality services and low fares, because they're not getting that investment just now. And we want to see action on meeting fair work benchmarks like union recognition and paying the negotiated rate for the job to employees if a business is getting any sort of support from the Scottish Government. If we're serious about fair work, that's what we need to see. And we need that action on establishing our National Care Service, yes, but it needs to be a not-for-profit National Care Service. And it needs to pay its workers properly. And while we're at it, what happened to free school meals? Why has that been delayed yet again? We need free school meals for all children right up to the top of secondary age. Because our struggle as a movement is a bit more than just a pay rise. It's actually about the very sort of society that we want to live in. It's about an economy that provides the basic foundations that we need to exist: good health and care, affordable warm homes, decent transport, good education, and clean and connected neighbourhoods. Our struggle is a just cause for a more just society. It's a struggle for life itself, and we have every right to demand. We have every right to demand not just to live, but to live well in Scotland, and to demand a fairer share of the huge wealth that already exists in this country. So why should we continue to pay for crisis after crisis when the rich continue to profit? Why should we, workers and ordinary taxpayers who keep our country going, foot the bill for the next Tory government's sticking plaster on our broken energy markets, while energy companies are still allowed to make profits of £170 billion over the next 2 years? It is obscene. And we know the answer. The answer is that we shouldn't and we won't. They need to pay their fair share. In fact, they need to be nationalised. The exploitation of working people in this country must stop now. And it's on us to stop it. And the reality is, this is a crisis that's been decades in the making, and it's been caused by the decisions of successive governments, both in Scotland and in the UK. We've seen our energy companies privatised, our railways privatised, Royal Mail privatised, social care privatised, council houses sold off, and a huge array of our public services, including many of Scotland's school services, outsourced. Even our seabed, with all its offshore wind potential, has been sold off to big business. Our infrastructure and essential services have been sold off to a rentier class who, like vultures on a carcass, extract as much wealth and profit from workers and communities as they can before they move on to their next prey. And until we reverse privatisation and outsourcing in favour of democratic control, then we will continue to be prey to a system that is stacked in favour of the rich and the powerful. So that's why today we're left with an economy that's been stripped bare. That's why we have a political class across the board that's failed in and not taking action. And as the blame game goes back and forward between Westminster and Holyrood, and between Labour and the SNP, the causes of Scotland's profound and unequal economy get ignored. They get left to fester for years. So today, we've got an economy that no longer works for working people. And more of us now realise that it's not going to get fixed unless we build a really wide, broad movement. Doesn't matter if you're for independence or not. This is about demanding more from our politicians of every shade and colour. And into this space, we're seeing trade unions taking the lead. We're articulating a critique of our broken economy on behalf of the whole working class. But we only have a platform to do that because of the collective action taken by so many workers who've stood together and said enough is enough. Strong movements are built from the roots, and the real fight back is happening on our streets and in our workplaces. It's happening in our union branches, in our community projects, and trades councils, and groups like Live and Rent up and down this country. And we salute those efforts, and we want to support that fight back wherever it's taking place. That's why we're working with campaigning groups that operate across Scotland, with the Poverty Alliance and their members, and with anyone who shares our agenda, to knit together our issues into one strong set of demands that the politicians and the governments can no longer ignore. And yes, there's going to be dark days ahead. Under this new Truss government, we're going to have to realise that we are in the fight of our lives. And if you were in any doubt about their intentions, you just have to look at the fact that she's put Jacob Rees-Mogg in charge of trade union and worker rights and energy. So God help us. They're going to throw everything they've got at breaking our movement in the months ahead. And they will try to strip ordinary working people of their rights. They will try to divide us. They will try to vilify us. They will trick us. They will lie to us. And they will even mock us. But remember, that's because they fear us. Because they know that when we, the ordinary working people, get organised, when we unite in our demands with one strong voice, we are more powerful than they can dare to imagine. So, in closing, I'll just say this. When our new Prime Minister talks about us riding the storm together, as they finally get round to implementing some sort of package to address our skyrocketing energy bills, don't believe the hype. Remember, their long-term aim is to prop up that energy market and support the privateers that run it to keep on sucking profits out of our essential services. In the end, ordinary people will be left to foot the bill. So we must continue to organise and to call out their Tory lies and tricks. Because in her storm, they're all going to still be in the super yachts and we're in the dinghies. But what this new Truss government is soon going to have to face up to is that we, the working class, aren't going to swallow their lies anymore, because we've had enough. We're rising, we're angry, and this time we are the storm, and we're going to blow them away. Thank you.
Rose Foyer. That's leadership. That's what we need. As Rose says, what the right wing and the corporations fear most is organised working people. When you look in this room, they've got a lot to fear. So tomorrow, as Rose says, if you can, I know it's in Edinburgh and it's an early morning start, but if you are able to get there, there is an STUC demo fighting and demanding fair pay for all workers in Scotland. 10:30, Johnson Terrace, and they're marching through to the Scottish Parliament before First Minister's questions. Not just industrial disputes that are ongoing in communities up and down Scotland. There are other disputes that working class people are organising around and fighting for better. And one of the key demands of the Enough is Enough campaign is for decent homes for all. That does mean more council housing, it means more housing association housing, but it also means fighting for the rights and the protections of privately rented tenants and those who do rent in the social sector. In recent months, private rents have been soaring, just like all other bills, but in Scotland we have a well-organised, dedicated tenants' union in Live and Rent. And Live and Rent have been organising for years for the Scottish Parliament to introduce proper rent controls which brings down the cost of privately renting in this country. And just this week, they organised and they did win a temporary concession from the Scottish Government. The next speaker, representing Live and Rent, a key part of the Enough is Enough campaign, is Annie Craig. Annie Craig is a member of the Live and Rent National Committee, and she's here to speak to you today about tenants' rights.
Good evening, Glasgow. Can you hear me up the back? Because I'm a wee bit short. I thought I might need a box. Anyway, my name's Annie Craig, and the first time I heard the word union, it was when my late father was throwing stuff at the Tories at the telly. And screaming at people to join the fucking union. The next time I heard the word union, I was 17 years old, full of hopes and dreams, and I'd get my first job in the new depot of Baltic Street Cleansing. Back when girl power and trailblazing was, you know, they hadn't heard it back then in the 80s, you know. Me and Gina Wallison were steel toe cap boots, we're overalls, and still pine a hoft in the West Coast at the weekend, I know. I remember the train driver saying to us one time, "You can't be young enough to be... You're wearing workies overalls. Work experience, mister, honestly. School work experience." Anyway, that was the first union that I joined, was you know, the General and Municipal Boilermakers Union. And I spent, you know, a good part of 35 years plus working in the East End, mostly in retail and wholesale and, you know, different environments, but was always a union rep. I always had too much to say me. And I think my father had taught me, learn the fucking rules and then throw it back at them. I realised at a young age as well that one voice can make the difference. One voice is all it takes sometimes. Somebody to stand up and go, "Do you know what, enough's enough. I've had enough." And that's why I'm here talking to you tonight. And that's why I love Glasgow, because she's are all heart. 3 years ago, I was in a private let. I had damp mould and slugs, honestly. It was in the bathroom and in the kitchen. It wasn't nice. And after fighting with the landlord, you know, he was a rogue landlord. They bought and sold the property 3 times in the 2.5 year and 3 year I lived there. You know, they bought and sold it all the time, so they didn't need to do the repairs. And I really was at my wit's end, you know. I had 3 kids, all under the age of 10, all with disabilities and challenges. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't working. You know, I was an unpaid carer. I was looking after people at home, and I was looking after somebody with dementia, a very dear family member who'd raised me and done the same thing for me, so I had to step up with his dementia and do the same for him. I was thinking back about what I was going to say the night, and words that, you know, the great activist Cathy McCormick, she was a great housing activist, Cathy, God rest her. You know, we miss you. We lost her recently and we're really sad about that, but we remember her power. And I remembered a story that she told about going to her doctor for a prescription and saying, "Doctor, you know, what can you do about my cold, damp, wet house? There's no prescription for that." He offered her antidepressants, by the way. Cathy told him where to stick his antidepressants. She decided to go and join her fucking union. Yeah, she did. To fight for which she believed. Cathy fought for which she believed. And buy her book, by the way. Great read. Great read. I did the same thing with my doctor. I was 6.5 stone when the living rent guys met me. 6.5 stone. I'd spent 4.5 years campaigning as a volunteer in Castlemilk with the young people, and doing in Govan Hill and Dixon Halls, looking after the old ones. And as a community volunteer, I seen the fractures happening and I seen the cracks starting to happen. I knew the housing had been a great sell-off. And this wee angry woman was pissed. So when I met the guys for living rent, by God, did they put a fire in me. You know, they started a campaign. It was a campaign for Annie, for me, for justice, for this one wee woman, this one wee person. This collaboration of tenants for all the city had come together to take on my landlord. And wait to hear the best bit. The letting agent, know what they were called? Ethical letting. Unethical fucking letting was what my family was getting. $12.5 in fucking rent and not a penny spent on repairs. By the time me and living rent were finished with them, and if you don't believe me, you can ask wee Susie Doll, the leader of the council, because we went to her constituency. She was the local leader, but she was also my local councillor. That was handy, wasn't it? We went along, we scuttled in, me and the living rent mob, because that's what we do in living rent. We turn up mob-handed, and see when we do, doesn't matter if it's a landlord, a letting agent, or a CEO of the energy fucking companies, they know we're coming, they know we're here. They know we're going to be heard. I'm proud to say I'm a member of the Living Rent Tenants and Community Union. This city and this country needs a Tenants and Community Union. Because while you guys are out working hard, and you did work hard during the pandemic, all the bloody workers did that had to get up every morning and go out. Wasn't it your politicians and your fat cats that was serving up food at the food pantry or making sure the Asda was stocked? It wasn't them that was doing it. It was you guys that are standing in front of me now. And carers, unpaid carers like me that were sitting at home with no services and no nothing because the whole world had shut down. We weren't forgotten about. We kept the fight up. Might have had to take the fight online, but we still kept the fight up. And today, Living Rent, we've come back stronger. We're still a young union, but by God, day by day, we're growing and it's great. I'm surrounded by young, passionate, angry people. At Living Rent, we've seen the cost of greed. Like, it's not a cost of living crisis, it's a cost of fucking greed crisis, and nobody will tell me any different. I've seen it in Castlemilk. I've seen it down the water in Greenock. I've seen it all over Scotland. Communities, tenants, workers, we're on our fucking knees with this. We know what's coming. All folk like me that lived through the Thatcher years, and by God, growing up in the East End of Glasgow during the Thatcher years wasn't funny. She never got to keep her fucking milk, we kept it. The people of Glasgow went, you're no having it, we're keeping it. And that's that, we're keeping it. And I have to agree with the speaker before, the lassie for the union. Been shouting since 2012, feed all the fucking wains and all the fucking schools. That's no a hard one. That's no a hard one. I've been that worker. With all the wains, having to pay for everything, the lunch monies, the breakfast club, out of school clubs. You pay through the nose for everything and you get nothing back. We can't take it anymore. Enough's enough. We've seen the landlords hiking up the rents. Nothing new there, is there? Well, let me tell you, housing association rents used to go up 6% a year. Whether you wanted it to or not, it was going fucking up 6% a year. They called it a consultation. Where 20 people on the committee got a wee letter, they ticked the box and sent it back, and that was everybody consulted. And the rents went up year on year, but 6%. And even after the pandemic, with no services for any of the landlords, any of the registered social housing landlords, none of them gave any money back until living rent got involved. In Castle Milk, in Castle Milk, they get 75% of all their service charges paid back because the tenants said, no, enough's enough. In the private rented sector, I've watched over the last 5 to 10 years my city being decimated by landlords, and all they want to do is do Airbnbs and 2-let holiday lets. What good is that to the working people and the working families of this city? The working communities that are saying, my wains can't afford to live here. What? You can't afford to get a house in Denison? No, because all the private landlords own them. I can see lots of horrible things coming because I've lived through it before, and I think there's a lot of faces out there, you have lived through it too, and you know what's coming, right? We're not having it again. Enough's enough. No. No, fuck the landlords. Fuck the CEOs. We as tenants, and you know, somebody like me, just a wee woman for Govan, because that's where I stay now. But I've lived all this city, from Easterhouse to Barlanark to Castle Milk, and I've been there and I've done that and I've lived in it. And I know these communities and I know them with all my heart. And I see people are struggling, really, really struggling. And I've watched the news the past year and I've watched the workers stand up and say, no, enough's enough. And by God, the changes we've seen happen just in the last few weeks has been tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. I want to say to all you workers out there, for the people like me that can't go out there and do it, and can't pay in the way you guys pay in, you know, we rely on you to stay as strong as you have been and keep being stronger. You know, I'm going to steal something for one of my co-sisters. I was lucky enough to take part in a contemporary dance show a couple of years back on the tramway, and it was all about the miners' strike. I'd never been to a contemporary dance show in my life. I can't sing, I can't dance, and you know, I look awful, but do you know what? I had a fucking ball. And it reminded me of the solidarity and the passion of the miners' strike, what the women went through as well as the men. You know, Thatcher tried to break one men, but the women came and backed them up. The same thing happened in Glasgow way, way, way back in Mary Barber's day. The men were away fighting, they were fighting for king and country, and the fucking women, they were battling the factors and the landlords and chasing them out the city. Enough's enough. I'm going to go back even further. In 1787, just up the road in the Kelton, Scottish weavers organised and they held their first protest strike. That was in 1787. That's the history of this city. That's the history. It's workers. The shipbuilders, the steelmen, the mines. It's all coming around again, but do you know what this time? Do you know what we've got this time? We've got the young people. We've got the tweet and the Facebook. I've tried the TikTok, but there's only so much an old woman can take, you know. Some of the lives, by the way, oh my goodness. Anyway, I do digress. In Live and Rent, when we organise, we do show up in numbers and we do put a rocket up their arses. They really do. They shit themselves. And whether it's a landlord, a letting agent, a CEO, it doesn't matter. Wee Martin Armstrong for the GHA was left absolutely nameless after our poster campaign. The cunt was making more than Biden was. You know. Through working class action, and I've seen it the whole of my life, might have took a wee back seat the last 15 years, but I've seen it the whole of my working life, how they screw the worker every year for a wee bit more and a wee bit more work for a wee bit less pay and a wee bit less pay, but enough's enough. Just this week, you know, we fought hard during COVID, and we made sure there was no evictions. People weren't going to get through at their houses in the dead of winter in the middle of a pandemic. We made sure that happened. Tenants for Live and Rent made sure that happened. We have had a commitment from the Scottish Government that rent controls are coming, and by God, they can't come quick enough. But best of all, and it was only yesterday, a freeze in rents. I was absolutely sunny delighted and tickled fucking pink yesterday. You know. Last year, our neighbourhood branches done a lot of work, and this year we've got a lot of work going forward, and we will be working with other organisations and other unions just like you guys. And when you go back to your communities tonight, you take a wee look around your community and you have a wee minute's thought for somebody that's maybe no paid in worker of the union, you know, but it's somebody that's struggling just as much as you are. And when I look at all the faces around here, I think 1 in every 2 people in this room is going to become like me, a carer at one point in their life. Might be for a week, might be for a fortnight, or you might be a parent who has a child like myself, who are going to have life-long conditions, and you're going to have to take a back seat in your working life and just care. And in my 15 years of care, I've never been more scared and worried than I am right now about what's going to happen next. I need the workers, the people like you, the strength. You guys are the strength. Us carers are the foundation. We hold everything else together. You guys make it all work. You go to your work, you empty our bins. Mon the fucking Clenny. You look after our old people. You keep people with dignity in their homes. You put your life at risk during a pandemic. And this week, Heather wants to say thank you to all you workers for that. Don't give up now. And I'll finish off by saying, we're workers, we are strong, we are fighting for our lives, we're standing side by side and arm in arm. We are this nation's pride. Yeah. We're united by the struggle. Yeah. We're united by the past. Yeah. Here we go, here we go. We are the fucking working class. Thank you.
Well, Well, if there was any landlords in the room, they've just left. And thanks very much, just to say to all the Living Rent members who are helping steward tonight's event. So one of the groups who helped found and establish the Enough is Enough campaign was fans supporting Foodbanks. I think too often football fans are tarred with an unfair brush, and I think it's a working class brush. But in Liverpool, over the last few years, Liverpool fans and Everton fans have come together to establish fans supporting Foodbanks. Working class guys giving up their tickets sometimes to the game to come together to actually collect food to tackle rising hunger. The campaign's not just about that, it's also campaigning for the right to food and also free universal school meals that Roz spoke about earlier on. It has recently been launched in Scotland, and it even managed to get some Rangers and Celtic fans together on Saturday before the Rangers the Celtic game. And if there isn't an image of working class solidarity, then a Celtic fan and a Rangers fan half an hour before kick-off standing together collecting tins, then I don't know what it is. So our next speaker is a member of the Killie Trust. It's a supporters trust that have a stake in Kilmarnock Football Club. They are organising as part of Fans Supporting Foodbank, and the next speaker is Robert Foster.
Thanks very much, everybody. And if you think you're sweating, imagine having to follow Roz and Annie. I'm fucking like this. I want to start tonight with just a wee quick thanks for Joe and Michael Sharp for organising this. If it wasn't for them, none of us would be here today. So a big round of applause for them. Listen, I'm sure loads of you will know of a clue what Fans Supporting Foodbank Scotland is, so we'll start right at the beginning. 3 other football supporters, Andy Harris, Neil Curran, Marty Smith, all great guys, and myself, we first met at the end of last season just to start a discussion about what Fans Supporting Foodbanks in Scotland could look like. We knew it was in Liverpool, we knew it had been in Liverpool since 2015, but we think, could we transport that to Scotland and get more Scottish teams involved in that? So we started a discussion then, so not that long ago. We launched in July under the banner of Hunger Doesn't Wear Club Colours, Hunger Doesn't Care what football team you support, and with 4 days' notice, we collected 10 crates of food at our very first collection. Fast forward to now, just 8 weeks later, and we've got more supporter groups from different clubs involved, and football supporters have donated literal tons of food at football matches. Every single donation, every single piece of that food is going to the people that need it the most, and that is the power of working class fan activism at Scottish football clubs. Ordinary working people in huge numbers understanding the need to help others is powerful to see, but it's also heartbreaking and gut-wrenching. I lost count at the last collection the amount of people who apologised to us for not being able to donate as much as they would like to because of the struggles that they're facing themselves. That this is necessary should make every single one of us absolutely fucking raging at the state our country's in just now. Any given weekend in this country, there's hundreds of thousands of working class people going to watch their team playing, and we want to harness those numbers into action. We want to harness the power in making a difference. Football fans in Scotland are treated appallingly by the government and the media. They think that we're thugs. They think that we can't be trusted. They think that we can't be responsible. Well, football supporters are showing that they're willing to help out and bring bags of food to games. Football supporters are showing that rivalries belong on the pitch and solidarity belongs in the streets. And football supporters are showing that we will step up where government fails to look after the people who need their help the most. We're in Glasgow. Jags for Good. The fans group at Partick Thistle today launched a fund. Aye, absolutely. Round of applause for Jags for Good. So today, Jags for Good launched a fund to provide energy top-ups for people on top of all the food that they've been collecting. The supporters from both the Dundee teams are collecting huge amounts of food and breaking down barriers between the clubs at the same time. And at the last game, Kilmarnock and Motherwell supporters came to the match with over 500 donations from a crowd of just 6,000. Joe's mentioned it, but that solidarity part is fundamental to what we're trying to achieve. We need supporters to work together, and just last weekend we had both sets of Old Firm supporters put aside their own rivalries and stand shoulder to shoulder collecting food, and that was a truly historic day, not just for us, but for Glasgow and for Scotland. That solidarity shown to us by our friends in Liverpool, as Joe said, especially has been incredibly important to setting up fans supporting Foodbanks in Scotland. Ian Byrne, Dave Kelly, Jen Mercer, they all came up to support us. They all came up, drove up in their van, and they were there when we launched. The fans supporting Foodbanks in Liverpool, they've been going for a lot longer than we have. They collect 30% of all the food bank donations in Liverpool, and just this year alone they've given out 76,000 food parcels in their mobile pantries. Now that is plugging some serious government failures if ever I've seen it. There's been a large decrease in food bank donations since the pandemic because the cost of living is already hitting people. It's not coming down the road. It's been here for a while and it's just going to get worse. But if we can get football fans actively and regularly collecting food at stadiums from Dingwall to Dumfries, we can more than make up for the drop in donations and really support people through this crisis. There are over 1,000 people in this room tonight, and if a fraction of you go to the football or you know someone who does, get in touch. And we'll support you to set up a group at any club in the country, and you can keep helping to build this network. It's a tiny wee small ask to take away from tonight, but if you are a football fan or if you know one, get in touch with us. So, poverty doesn't exist in a vacuum. We all know that. That's why we're here. And while we'll build on our work, we aim to get supporters at every single club, all 42 SPFL clubs on board and collecting the food games. We'll also be campaigning alongside Enough is Enough to end food poverty completely. Food banks are not the solution to food poverty. Ending poverty is the solution. Tonight, fans supporting food banks, we're here to demand that a right to food is enshrined in law to protect the most vulnerable in our society. Tonight, we're here to demand that free school dinners for every child in Scotland tackling hunger in our schools. Tonight, we demand that community kitchens are brought in so that bringing people together to support each other. And tonight, we're here to demand the immediate reinstatement of the £20 universal credit uplift that was cruelly stolen by the Tories. Fans supporting Foodbanks Scotland are proud to be involved with Enough is Enough. Enough of children going to bed hungry. Enough of families worrying about eating or heating. Enough of teachers buying food out of their own pockets to feed kids. Enough of food banks being the answer. Enough of government cuts, government inaction. Enough of the scraps from the table. And if we stick together, we're going to win. Thank you very much.
We were key workers, but then the collapse ended. Cleansing workers in this city have had to take industrial action twice in the last year, standing up for fair pay and investment in the services that they proudly deliver to citizens here in Glasgow. Please give a big Glasgow welcome to two cleansing workers, GMB members, Chris and Barry.
I'll go first because I'm not following him. And by the way, this wasn't a branch meeting. Firstly, solidarity to all the workers and unions that are organising and fighting in workplaces up and down the country, making working terms and conditions better. Big mention at the living rent. Big mention. And all the organisers, really well done. But let's get into it. What's the first role of government? To protect its citizens. This hasn't happened. It's not happened in this country for a long time. We've suffered years of austerity and price hikes to the point where we've been conditioned to accept it. People are rightly furious at the contempt we are being shown. Not before time, the trade unions have woken for their slumber. I came back into the GMB because of that man there. Absolutely relentless in his efforts. And the 24/7, I don't know how he's still married, to be honest, but he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop, and he tirelessly fights for the terms and conditions of cleansing workers in Glasgow. Backed up as well by good full-time officers. Big mention to Sean Bailey. Big mention to Sean Bailey. He'll not like it. He'll not like this. But Sean's been a rock to our branch, and I'd just like to thank him in front of all yous. Now, I don't claim to be an expert in world economic affairs. You'll not see me and many of my colleagues debating the wholesale price of grass. But believe me, the working class aren't stupid either. We are so tired of hearing about how the UK's current hardships are the result of a war with the Ukraine, and people just nod along with it. Bollocks, bollocks, I say, right? We get 4% of our gas from Russia. 4%, and still our prices are the highest in Europe. This is a shit show, and it's a Tory design. %50 of natural gas used in the UK comes from gas fields in British waters. A decent government would have limited the price increases by fixing the price, but we don't have a decent government. We have an anti-worker rights government that is obsessed in their ideology, which is totally flawed and a race to the bottom, which is shooing in fascism bit by bit. And again, fascism doesn't come goose-stepping down your street. It comes by way of stripping away workers' rights bit by bit in a wave of nationalism. Aye. And that goes for both governments, by the way, UK and Scottish. The working class will no longer accept this. As other speakers have mentioned, we refuse to be poor any longer. We refuse to be blinded by bigotry and the narrative that immigration is society's, society's problems, basically. And that's why campaigns like this are a good one. Others need to hat them, because good trade union work in and around workplaces filters through to local communities, because people can see workers standing united beside one another is where the real power lies, and only together can we build a greener, cleaner, sustainable future. Well, we do hold the power. I've got news for them. We hold the power. And it's communities that hold the power. And that's what governments fear more than anything. A united working class. A united working class that will change the political landscape in this country. And we've done it before. We've done it before, and our rise will be their demise. I'll just finish off, because I know we're pressed for time here, with a wee poem that I read out to my shop floor. Governments need to remember this. We are the people you're trying to step on, but we are everybody you depend on. We are the people who do your bins and sweep your streets. We also cut your grass and maintain your roads. We nurse you when you're sick. We drive the ambulances. We help you find a book at your local libraries. We are the cooks, the home carers, who look after you when you're old. We are the lollipop man or woman who helps your kids across the road. We drive the trains and maintain the tracks, even though there are many cracks. Like other emergency services, we are the people who protect society, so don't fuck with us. Enough is enough. Power to the people.
Well, how can I follow that? Listen, thank you very much, and a big round of applause for my comrade and good friend of mine, Barry McAreavey. You've really got to be inspired by the speakers tonight. Absolutely inspirational. And let me tell you this, we have awoken the sleeping giant, and yous are the sleeping giant. We've given people hope, we've given people a voice, we've given people a vision, but most of all, we have given people courage to stand up and simply say, enough is enough. The working class is alive and kicking. We've got community groups in here, we've got activists, we've got trade unionists, we've got everybody you can think of, simply standing shoulder to shoulder in camaraderie and in solidarity, because it's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The politicians watching this today, they must be scared, and I hope they're scared, because you know what? We are coming for every single one of them. We'll deal with the cost of living crisis. We'll deal with the energy crisis. We'll put an end to child poverty, because it's a national scandal. We'll continue to build a movement that is going to be stronger than everything you've ever seen. Trust me. And the word trust says it all. I hope she's watching us tonight. So let's make as much noise as possible. Tell her we're coming for her. Tell her straight. I'm going to start where I finished, by the way. Absolutely inspirational stories you've heard to working class people. And I'm inspired, I'm actually shaking here. And it's with joy what I'm seeing in front of you. So one more time, let's make as much noise as possible. Let's bring this roof down right across the UK. The movement is alive and kicking. Solidarity, brothers and sisters. Come on!
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Chris. Absolutely brilliant. The next speaker the next speaker is a human rights lawyer with 3 decades of anti-racism campaigning. They're currently representing the Seco Bayou family in their fight for justice. As Barry says, when working class people are under attack, people go and look for scapegoats. It's really important that we have somebody here that's an anti-racism campaigner that can talk to you tonight about the cost of living crisis and give you a message. Aamer Anwar.
Thanks, Joe. And like every other speaker, Jesus Christ, how am I supposed to follow every single speaker that has spoken? It was amazing coming in here. STUC contacted me a couple of days ago and said, been asked to reach out to you. And I said, what about? And she says, would you come and speak at the Enough is Enough? And I was like, absolutely, 100%. I had the choice of going to Parliament this evening to watch a debate take place or coming here. I said, I'm coming here. And I'm so glad I did, seeing that queue around the block. And I have to say that anyone looking in on the United Kingdom cannot see today anything other than a failed state. When you look around Europe, in Spain, train journeys under 300 kilometres are free until the end of 2022. In France, energy bills are only rising by 4%. In Germany, it has cut public transport to €9, that's £7.70 a month. And meanwhile, we had a Prime Minister this week telling the people to go out and buy a new kettle. A new kettle. Telling people, and it's sometimes you look at it and you sort of laugh and then you realise how sick, how inhumane, how barbaric these individuals are. And I want to rattle through some of the absolute utter nonsense that we've heard in the last few weeks as these Tory wannabe Prime Ministers have talked through a list of things that they all intend to do. They all, of course, say they want to talk about cracking down on violence. Well, for the Tories, there is no problem with violence as long as it's sanctioned by the state. Peacekeeping forces can go abroad and they can operate a policy of shoot to kill. Security services can engage in rendition and torture. Police officers in this country can restrain and kill unarmed young males. We supply barbaric regimes with bombs to rain down on the innocents. Forests can be burnt to the ground. Our seas are being ravaged. Our environment is being plundered. And whilst all the while, dissent, free speech, the right to protest, or the right to strike, they want to crush. And none of this violence is wrong in the eyes of the law as long as it is sanctioned by this government. And again, on the question of racism, apparently myself, my community, the black, Asian, minority, ethnic community, should be celebrating today because we have the most diverse cabinet ever in the history of this country, in the history of Europe. I watched Sajid Javid, the son of a bus driver, same as my father, a bus driver. I watched Rishi Sunak. I watched Cruella Braverman. I watched all the rest of them. Speeches paying tribute to their parents. All those brown and black members of the cabinet. They insult my parents' generation. They insult my parents' generation who gave their blood, sweat and tears when they were begged to come to this country and help to build it. And when we look for one brief moment in 2015, the images of the body of a 3-year-old Syrian boy, Aylan Kurdi, washing up on the Mediterranean shore sparked universal grief as millions demanded that we opened our borders. But the politicians within days quickly went back to demonising human beings as illegal. And we should remember, long before Nigel Farage ever came on the scene, we should remember the policies of David Blunkett with his control of immigration. We should remember some 22 odd years ago, I remember as a young lawyer fighting for the I children, 3 or 4 children incarcerated with their mother behind barbed wires in Dungavel. The amount of times that we have been told that Dungavel was shut, but it's still open. It's a scar on our planet. It's a scar on the planet of Scotland. And we should remember long before Nigel Farage, a racist European border policy has turned the Mediterranean into a sea of blood, drowning tens of thousands of refugees fleeing war, poverty and climate catastrophe. We are ready to bomb countries, to prop up dictators, to open the gates of help, but we're not willing to help those escaping the fires, hungers and wars that we cause. And of course, I see a real difference. In 2015, we were told by all our leaders, by the tabloids in this country, that we had a migrant crisis when 1.4 million Syrian people wished to flee persecution, torture, rape, starvation, chemical bombs, bombs from the sky, unexploded devices taking their limbs, tearing their children apart. And we were told that we couldn't accommodate them. But within days throughout Europe, we accommodated 2 million Ukrainian refugees. And I asked the difference. We all asked the difference. All people of colour asked the difference. What is the difference? And I, for one, don't deny the right of the Ukrainian people to come to this country. We should open our borders to them. We should do for them the same as we should do for the Syrian people. But I'll tell you this, it wasn't a migrant crisis, it was a racism crisis that we had. And I'll also say this, never mind the Tory party, there are those in parties that are supposed to be on our side, who are supposed to be on the side of the workers, who believe in the working class movement, who claim to follow Labour Party traditions, who follow Labour traditions. They should know damn sight better. But they say, they claim, some of those, that we must help our own first. And what I say is, if socialism means anything, it means nothing if we do not respond to the plight of the political prisoner, if we do not respond to the plight of the hungry children, if we do not respond to the plight of the homeless refugees, the deaths in police custody, the pensioners unable to heat their homes, the workers unable to put food on their table or keep the roof over their head. If we deny our humanity, we betray our own. And that is what we should always remember. And I just briefly want to touch on the case of Sheku Bayo. Sheku Bayo was a young black man, 31 years old, who came from London, came from Sierra Leone when he was 11, lived in London, and his sister, who lived in Fife and Kirkcaldy, decided that it was safer for her brother to grow up in Kirkcaldy, so he travelled up to Kirkcaldy. He was part of the community. He had 2 young boys, Isaac and Tyler. Tyler is now 11, Isaac is now 7. On the 3rd of May 2015, the police received reports of a black man walking down the street acting erratically with a knife. 6 police vehicles were detached, sent to the scene. Within the space of 30 seconds, just under 30 seconds of the first police officers arriving, Sheku Bayo was face down on the ground. Before those 30 seconds of him being face down on the ground, he had been CS sprayed as he walked empty-handed towards the police. Empty-handed. No knife in his hand. No knife ever found on him. No knife found in his pocket. Not wielding any knife. But he was CS sprayed. He was powder sprayed. He was battened. And when he was on the ground, he was handcuffed. He was leg cuffed. He was ankle cuffed. And when they made the deal, which some of you will have seen on the footage during the public inquiry, they talked about him being the biggest black male they had ever seen, how they were terrified. We asked the question, 2015, what was the size of the police officers attending? Because it was a detail that was constantly missing. And then we found out in the months that passed that the first 2 police officers who attended were 6'4" each and weighed 25 stones each. There was up to 6 police officers on top of Sheku Bayo. Over 50 separate cuts, lacerations and bruises and a broken limb. Within a space of minutes he stopped breathing, and within minutes he was dead. He was taken to the hospital. And his family have fought now for 7 years to get justice, and they ask the question this. They ask it of all the Labour movement. They ask it of all the political parties. They ask every one of you, and they plead with you. If you carried the hashtag Black Lives Matter, if you marched when Black Lives Matter during the pandemic, if you cried tears for George Floyd, where is the tears and the marches and the demonstrations for Sheku Bayo? And I'll put this out there, because I know the Scottish Police Federation like to watch every word I take publicly, so that they can drag us down, they can bully the family, they can try and harass them. They have not succeeded. And it's a slogan I made many, many years ago, after 1998, when Surjit Singh Chokha was murdered. In 1999, we set up the campaign to fight for justice, and there was one trial, and the killers walked free. And then we campaigned again with the backing of the STUC and many of the trade unionists who I see today who were at the heart of that campaign. And it took 17 years to get justice for that family. And the slogan we raised was, the dead cannot cry out for justice. It is the duty of the living to do so. And what I would say to you is this. On the 16th of November, the Sheku Bayo public inquiry will begin again in Edinburgh. We want that square outside filled up with demonstrators, with protesters, with activists, whichever side you're on. We are building a movement. We are building a movement that connects these issues, whichever walk of life you come from. And as I'll turn to Liz Truss now, like every Tory before her, she claims she wants to build a land of opportunity for all. You cannot build a land of opportunity for all on the ruins of 5 million children living in poverty by the end of this year. And we will not take lectures about the irresponsibility of wage rises from billionaires, the bankers, the energy companies, the very people who have nearly destroyed the UK economy through their unrestrained greed. No matter how many hours families work, they struggle to put food on the table. Child mortality is on the increase. Suicide rates spiral as people are driven to despair. And if you want to talk about that United Kingdom, after Brexit and all the rest of it, the United Kingdom is a rogue state in which the free market is only for the poor and socialism is for the rich. That's how their free market works. Where a person on a salary pays more tax than the global pirates who threaten the future of entire nations from their £100 million yachts. What disgusting human being came up with a cowardly plan to offshore people fleeing persecution and war 5,000 miles away in Rwanda in a dirty cash for people plan? And as for the Tories, I'm going to start winding up. As the Tories talk about in the last few weeks about being tough on crime, the Tories in this country lock up more people per capita than anywhere else in Europe. Super prisons are being built for the anticipated rise in crime. £4 billion has been put to the side to build some 6 prisons with 20,000 prisoners will be held in. Be prepared. Those prisons are being built for the poor and what we will face in the days and the weeks and the months ahead. Our prison system kills you a little bit every day. Crushing dreams, breeding bitterness, rage and frustration. And I know a case I want to mention you of a boy for whose family we have fought for the last 4 years. William Lindsay, 16 years old. 4 years ago, the system couldn't find him a place in a children's secure unit. So the sheriff in his wisdom decided to send him to Polmont's Young Offenders Institute. The social workers screamed, "Do not let him go. He is suicidal." He had been in and out of care some 19 times since the age of 3. He had attempted suicide some 8 times prior to prison. He took his own life despite the warnings within 48 hours of the arrival at Polmont Prison. We are still fighting for justice for William Lindsay. And in 2017, the cost of a place for a child in custody ranged from £75,000 to £210,000. The annual fee to have sent William Lindsay to Eton would have been £40,000 a year. Locking people up in dungeons of despair doesn't rehabilitate anyone. It institutionalizes violence, it dehumanizes people, and it alienates them. And it really doesn't matter. I think people have come to realize that. Who is in power at number 10? Because for millions of ordinary people, nothing changes as they get poorer. Despite the millions who are enduring the sharpest rise in the cost of living for 40 years, Britain's super wealthy have grown their combined fortunes by a record £710 billion in just 12 months. According to the Sunday Times Rich List, a golden era for the super rich has continued unchecked. This is their paper that's describing them. There is a record 177 UK billionaires, 6 more than there was last year. And the economic crisis has nothing to do with ordinary workers. It has nothing to do with the cleansing workers, nothing to do with the teachers, nothing to do with the rail workers, the benefit claimants, the illegal immigrants, the Eastern Europeans, or any of the scapegoats that suits the Tories of the day. Austerity is about punishing the poor for the mistakes of the rich. And today, what I say is this launch of Enough is Enough must be about the future of our country, of our children's future. At its heart, it must be about whether we put people before profit, about whether we send people to die in illegal wars. It's about a publicly owned health service. It's about looking after our old people, about the ending of poverty, the ending of ignorance, the ending of inequality of opportunity. There is only one thing that is inhumane, racist Tory government fears, and it is the power of the working class. And that power rests in every community, in every town, in every city, and it's time our movement united. Only last year, in July, I remember going to Kenmure Street. Friends from the asylum community asked me to come down. And I remember going into the back of the van, and as I arrived at the place, it was Eid that day, and I took my kids down. I was saying to people beforehand, my kids are wizened up now. I was able to take them when they're 6 months old, the toddler and all that, to demonstrations. But they could use it, they got the chance, they were like, "Dad, it's Eid, why are you taking us to a demo?" I went, no, we're just going for a wee wander through Pollock Shields. We got there, and there was about 1,000 people, and the chants kept coming through. "These are our neighbours, let them go. These are our neighbours, let them go." And I remember going into the back of the police van and saying to the police officers, senior police officer, "Thank you for Mr. Anwar for coming." He said, "Well, you've got 2 alternatives." I said, "Well, what do you think? What do you think we should do?" And I said, "Well, the first alternative is release these men into my custody, give a guarantee that they will not be arrested within the next 24 hours, that you will allow to march, the crowd will be allowed to march up to the local mosque, and then your police officers will disperse from our community." And they said, "Well, that's not possible because of the Home Office, because of Priti Patel's van having arrived there on the day of Eid." And they said, "What's the second alternative?" I said, "Second alternative is you must have at least 200 police officers there. You have horses, you have vans, you have batons, you have shields, you have seer spray. Send them in, batten everyone to the ground. Use your shields, use your violence, but you will be picking up the pieces for the next 20, 30 years." And what happened within a space of 2 hours was the police took a decision under public safety that the priority was to release those 2 men, and we marched to the chants of "These are our neighbours." We defeated Priti Patel, and that carried a wave. So I'll conclude by saying, up and down this country, meetings are taking place like this tonight. The prevailing mood may well be pessimism, but contained in these halls is the collective memory of the trade union movement across the decades. And that memory is not just about defeats, but it's also about the struggles that we won. We need to learn the lessons of the past. The writing is on the wall. We know what will happen if we do not unite. We know what will happen if we don't put aside our sectarian differences. We must also be prepared for the vicious attacks and smears that those in the front line will face, not just from the right-wing media, but from those liberal lefties, from those armchair socialists, from those red Tory hypocrites, the same ones who had the audacity to go for Eddie Dempsey, a lifelong socialist and anti-fascist. And this message should be loud and clear. If you come for one of us, then you will have to deal with our movement. We will defend our own. We will defend our people. So, enough is enough. We need collective action on the picket lines. We need our trade union leaders to organise and coordinate the strike days so that the whole country starts to shut down. We're not allowed to call it a general strike, but you can coordinate strike action on the same day. We need solidarity to raise money for workers who cannot afford to go on strike. We must make sure that they are not broken, that they win, that they take inspiration. We need to detonate a mass movement. We have to organise. We must be prepared, as many have said before, for the fight of our lives. People aren't prepared to suffer anymore. We cannot wait. We cannot wait until the desperate, the poor are negated as human beings. Power rests with the people, and it's time to bring down this barbaric Tory government to its knees. Thank you.
Represents workers and facilities management in this city, workers who had voted to take strike action this week before the latest local government pay offer. She was involved in the equal pay strikes in this city a few years ago. Please welcome Lynn Marie.
Thank you so much for having us all here tonight, but the power in this room is all of you out there. We can make as many speeches, turn up as many picket lines and do all of the work that we are doing, but it's now about people power, and every single person is valued and every single person has to make their voice heard. You don't need to be part of a trade union. The people that are out there in society, every single one of us is facing and experiencing, is it heat or is it eat? This hall tonight is roasting, and the sad reality is that this could be one of the very places that is turned into a heat bank, where people would come in and sit and get a heat. Is this 21st century Britain, or are we in Dickensian Britain? It is unacceptable. What I want to say tonight is that over the past few months, obviously, everybody that's been on picket lines, staging industrial action, it's amazing to see. Don't just turn up in a picket line and get a sticker, wave a flag and walk away and get a picture. Learn what it's about. I spent a lot of last weekend over at Paul Madee. Absolutely great support. 3 trade unions there together. It was amazing. What I don't know now about tipping lofts and lorries is not worth knowing. It was phenomenal. And in society, these are the people that matter. We all matter. But see, getting your bins emptied, you just assume it's getting done. See, when it wasn't done last weekend and the sun was shining on the righteous and every single bin in this city was overflowing because our waste and recycling workers had taken action. And hard on the heels of that, so the visibility of that, the whole visibility of those bins and the smell and everything, a job that I probably couldn't do, right? But the people that do it deserve to be valued, pay in their pocket, being able to try and meet the needs of what society's thrown at us. Because remember, the people in this room, the people in wider society, the people that are taking strike action, whether it's the living rent, whoever it is, community groups come together. This city hosted the COP last year, and it was all about what the climate change would look like. People may die of the cold in their homes this year. Now, that's not how you sort out what the climate change should look like. This is about a societal issue. I believe that everyone that's taken action, at any level. We are morally rich and the people in charge are morally bankrupt. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lynn. Just a couple more speakers, folks, and then we'll be near the end. So Power to the People have been organising people in this city over the last few weeks, demonstrating against rising energy bills. One of the key founders of that campaign is Francis Curran. Francis was involved in the anti-poll tax movement and as an MSP was key in delivering free school meals. Please welcome Francis.
Hello, Glasgow. I know you're dying for Eddie Dempsey and you've got me, but it's not long. It's not long. I'm going to tell him that, by the way. First question. How much profit did the big 5 energy companies make last year? Higher, higher, higher. £7.7 billion, that's what they made in profit. And it's an unimaginable amount of money. We can't even imagine it, and you couldn't spend that money in 1,000 lifetimes. And we have to ask the question is, where did that profit come from? Us. Exactly, it's our money. Not one of those shareholders, not one of those CEOs. They didn't get the money from anywhere else apart from out of our bank accounts. And every time I wash my hair, I did it especially for the night, by the way. Every time a kid plays Pokemon, every time a mum boils pasta, we are paying for the private education of the kids of the richest people in the world. We are paying... From the tenements of Glasgow, and I live in one, we are paying for the Michelin star chefs and the luxury yachts of the richest people in the world. And yet there are families in this city who are scared to turn on the oven. That's the inequality and the injustice that we are dealing with. Now, living in a damp, cold house is the most miserable thing in the world. I grew up in the East End. Annie, wasn't she brilliant? And I grew up in Berlanach as well. I wonder if our paths crossed. I wish they had. I hope they did too back then. But it's horrible. We had no heating. There was no heating in the tenements in those days. There was a coal fire in the living room. And we regularly, me and my sister, woke up with ice inside the window. Now, we had good times and it was good fun and I had a big family. I don't want you to get the violin out, okay? But that's how we lived. And when my dad at one point was quite seriously ill, and my mum was like that, no, we are not living like this. It's not happening. And she got somebody to fix her meter. And what a difference. We had the fan heaters on, we had hot water, we could have a bath. We had somewhere warm to study. My mum took education seriously. And we could take off our hats and our jumpers that had been our regular bedfellows. Now, that was decades ago. But there are people in this city tonight, children in this city tonight, who are living like that. And that is on our watch, and we are going to do something about it. Now, we knew not to open the door. You know that way? For anybody who's never had a TV licence, or the sheriff's officers are coming to the door, or you're scared of the electric man. We knew that. And then one Sunday morning, we opened the door and we were caught. And you couldn't exactly miss it. There was a big darning needle in the side of the meter that stopped the thing spinning that ran up your units. And it had a big bit of wool coming at it, because my mum knitted our jumpers in the days. It was the 70s, right? You didn't have the fashion now. They'd probably get them, they were the base-side roller ones, you know, with the 2 stripes. You probably get them down the Barras and they're called vintage. But I have to say, some fashion faux pas are best left in the 70s. Now, my mum was dealing with my dad dying at the time, And then she was worried sick about what was going to happen. She was really going to be her only parent. So what happened? Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. She was worried for months, and then it just went away. And to this day, I am grateful to that electricity man who took that act of solidarity for our family. Now this city, with its humour, with its solidarity, with its humanity. Now Glasgow, that was then and this is now. And we are faced with the same question. Are we going to let our friends and neighbours worry themselves into an early grave because they can't pay their gas and their electric bill? My answer to that is no, absolutely no. So we're all committed to that, everybody in this room. Now, I've thought once, twice, 3 times about telling that story about my growing up in the East End, and I had to phone my sister to check she was okay about it. Why did I think 3 times? Because it's about shame. My mum was supposed to feel shame that we were going to bed in hats and coats. Me and my sister were supposed to feel shame because my mum and my dad couldn't heat our house. Now, my dad was a skilled worker. He was a shipyard worker, and that's how we were living in the 1970s. So let's make a commitment right here and right now that we are not doing shame. Nobody will be shamed who can't pay their electricity bill, and we are going to push back, because if you can't pay your bill, it's not an individual fault. It's the blame of the system that's designed to make profit. And that's a political decision. And our class has done enough shame, no more. So, Power to the People was launched about 12 weeks ago. We've got to know each other really well over that time, I have to say. And we've got 3 demands. Price freeze on October the 1st. We want an end to prepayment meters, an end to fees. And by the way, the rise is no 80%. It's 180% from April to October. 180%. And we're not having it. Within days, we organised protests initially. Within a week of the Scottish Power protest, the Labour, the Lib Dems, the SNP, the Greens, Scottish Power Oval all came out in favour of a price freeze on October the 1st. Now, that's the result, and I'm not going to minimise that. But there's been plenty of noises, but we haven't got that implemented, and we've not been told that's a commitment. So we will be organising a mass protest on the 1st of October to ensure that we send our message in Glasgow. We are giving the energy companies and we are giving the Tory government a warning. Once, twice, this will be our 3rd time. If you do not implement a price freeze on the 1st of October, we will be considering other tactics. Now, I hear Liz Truss models herself on Thatcher. Well, she would do well to read a little bit of history, because it was in this very city just over 30 years ago that the first anti-poll tax demonstration took place. And I know I don't look it, but I was there over 30 years ago. And not only was I there, I was an organiser. I was the organiser of that demonstration. 15,000 people 2 weeks before the bills got dropped on the mats by the posties, who were on strike, but they were very supportive of the anti-poll tax union at that time. Now, we didn't know, I didn't know as an organiser of that, and neither did anybody else, whether it would work. But I'll tell you what, the working class of Scotland stood up. 1 million people didn't pay and they broke the law, and 18 million people in England broke the law and didn't pay. And as they say, from that demonstration, the rest is history, and we brought down Margaret Thatcher. So let's trust. And if we have to teach Liz Truss a lesson, then we absolutely will. Now, the Power to the People campaign, I better get faster, we're going to organise after October the 1st, regardless of whether or not we get a price freeze. We're going to organise those who can't pay already. We know it's not enough to get that. We're going to organise those who've decided not to pay, and we're going to organise everybody who stands in solidarity with those people. So we would like you to join our campaign. Tonight we've launched our website, Power to the People, pttp.org.uk. That's pttp.org.uk. Hope our website doesn't crash because of such demand. And you can join up, it's free. We're going to be building local groups across Glasgow and across Scotland. And we're in touch with people in Liverpool, in Cardiff and in England. Because we are not going to live this way. We deserve to have a decent life. Now, why are we doing this? We want to get our energy bills lowered, of course. We want people not to worry. We want people to live free from fear. But we also want to live. Not having any electricity and gas limits your ability to live. We want to have our pals round, and we want to cook nice food, and we want cold wine. We want the lights to be on in winter when it's dark for like nearly 24 hours a day, so that we can read about other worlds and engage in other ideas with our brothers and sisters across the world. We want students to have warm bedrooms so they can study, they can learn, they can have the knowledge that then they can, and a new generation can put to good use to create a better society. I want the wee boy next door to be able to play his clarinet on a full belly, but not after 9 o'clock at night. And we want to be able to plug in the telly to watch the football, but after the last 2 nights in this city, maybe no. Access to energy should be a basic right. It's a human right. And not 1 kilowatt should be owned privately. John Lennon, and Cole had to say who that was when we discussed it. John Lennon wrote Power to the People. He was inspired by the UCS, the Upper Clyde shipbuilding, working in this city 50 years ago. There is no more fitting tribute to this city than that song. However, it's 50 years ago, and do you know what? We need to write the new song. You need to write the new song. I'm a lot older than most of the people here. It's over to you, and it's your turn. We need to organise, we need to come together, we need to be broad, and enough is enough, and let's write that song. Power to the people, the 21st century. Let's go. Thank you.
The CWU have taken 170,000 members out in industrial action over the last few weeks. Workers in the BT group, low-paid workers working for BT in call centres, who the bosses put some food banks in so that they can get access to cheap food rather than pay them a fair wage. They've been on strike, and so have our postal staff. And tonight, the CWU have announced another set of strike dates, and it includes the 1st of October, the National Day of Action for Enough is Enough. So get along to those picket lines on the 1st of October. The next speaker, just so that we can send a message of solidarity to Dave and the CWU, as a postal worker of many years, is Tam Dewar.
Thanks very much. I'm Tam Dewar. I'm a postman in Irvine in Ayrshire, so I'll try and speak slowly so you can understand me. I'm a quiet living fella. My favourite T-shirt says, husband, dad, feminist. I don't cause trouble anywhere except my work, because I'm paid to cause trouble. But I was listening to Annie. Annie, I've never met you, but I've known you all my life, because there's been women like that in your communities all my life, fighting for us. And I don't cause trouble. I get my grandson at the weekend. Him and I are going to go and buy a can of spray paint, and see every wall in my town. It's going to have "Feed every fucking Wayne" in every fucking school. And I'm going to sign it Annie and Tam, because we don't give a fuck. Anyway, we're out on strike again against Royal Mail, the privatised Royal Mail. And I was doing a bit of work on the laptop on Monday. I had my wee Jack Russell on my knee, the laptop on the desk. I had the telly on in the background. I heard that fucking Edwina Curry. And I thought to myself, here we go again, deja vu. So I thought I'd learnt my lesson. So the day when I was working, I had the telly on with the sound turned down, and there's that Liz Trust smiling away. And you could tell by the smile that she had finally won that wee last Dalmatian pup. And I thought to myself, that's who we're fighting again. Well, if that's your best, bring it on. Because we've got better than you. We've got Annie. Anyway, you know the members of my union. You see them every day, red uniform, delivering your mail. They drive the lorries up and down the country. They work in the processing centres. And see, when the fat cats were sitting in the house during the pandemic, we were out in the streets delivering mail. And we had men and women in tears in case they got that disease and took it into their families, and still they turned up for work. We didn't just have to fight the pandemic, though. We had to fight the employer for PPE, protective equipment. We had to fight the employer for safe distancing. We had to fight the employer for safe distance of working. And we got there. So you would think, given all that the employer would be rewarding us with a pay award. So you know the type of people that are on the boards in the United Kingdom. It's like a big carousel. They all know each other. They went to the same schools. They come from the same rich families. One of them sits on the board of Halfords. He goes on to the remuneration committee. He awards the chair of Halfords £5 billion for working 20 hours a week. Then he goes on to the board of the Royal Mail and does the same. It's a lot of back scratching. We were due a pay increase in April, so we summoned them to the table. Now, it's always, they're feared to meet the leaders of your union. It's a bit like Norman Wisdom going up against Conor McGregor. But they have to come and talk to us sometimes. So they came and spoke to us and we said, we're due a pay award. We want a pay award that's going to meet inflation. And the Chief Executive says, but with no money, we're losing £1 million a day. They made, I know, just, I'm going to tell you it's bullshit. £758 million profit, £400 million in a shareholder dividend, £5 million to Daniel Krasinski, the big cheque billionaire. We call him the bouncing cheque. £5 million to him. £1.1 million to the Chief Finance Officer of a company that's losing £1 million a day. You must be crazy. Anyway, there's no pay on the table. Then they offered us 2% if we accept a cut in terms and conditions. Now, I'll tell you this, I lived through the miners' strike in 1984. See, when Scargill and the miners were out, see if we'd said enough is enough, we wouldn't have had a privatised Royal Mail. We wouldn't have a police force that think they can do what they want. We wouldn't have a privatised health service. We would be paying working class Waynes to go to university to train to be doctors, to work in our National Health Service. But what happened to Scargill? My mother used to describe a breed of people that wouldn't give you the recap for shite. And these people said, oh, but they haven't had a ballot. Oh, but there's been violence in the picket line. We can't support the miners. Well, we regret it now, don't we? Because things changed in 1984, and that's why we are where we are. Well, my union's saying we're not having it. See some of the people that come out the pits, they went to work in Royal Mail. You get sick pay if you're half sick. You get annual leave if you go on holiday. When you retire, you get a pension you can live on. Royal Mail want to take that away from us. We've got that because people that came before me fought for it. And we are still up for the fight. We are still up to the fight. Nobody ever put it better than Bob Crow, and I'll finish on this. I hope you'll join the picket lines. We're out tomorrow, we're out Friday. Every delivery office up and down the country. And just to finish, because Eddie Dempsey's coming on, thank fuck I wasn't speaking after him. I've never known support for this strike like it. The wee island of Islay, they don't bother them, they go about their business. Piper on the picket line, full office out and strike. We offices down Newton Stewart, we down in the rural communities, they know what they've got, out and strike, out in the picket line. Absolutely solid support. And I'll tell you what, see when the cleansing workers are out, their employers don't get their mail because we don't cross their picket lines. See when the university lecturers are out, we don't cross their picket lines. They educate our wains. They educate our wains so that they don't end up working with Royal Mail. Go to the picket line. Bob Crow said it better than anybody else. If we all spit together, we could drown the bastards.
Thanks, Tam. Don't know if his Ayrshire accent's worse than mine or no, but thank you very much. Please get out to the picket lines tomorrow and support the Royal Mail workers. Listen, the last speaker that we've got tonight helped launch this Enough is Enough campaign. He didn't just launch this campaign, but together with Mick Lynch, I think they kind of launched this working class movement, this moment of growth and working class solidarity. We are no use in this country to having working class people in our media taking on the sort of journalists and the political commentators and making them look like idiots. But that's exactly what Mick and Eddie have done, just by being straightforward, telling the truth and sticking to their line. And I'm really glad to welcome here to Glasgow tonight RMT Assistant General Secretary Eddie Dempsey.
Solidarity Glasgow. I want to first of all thank the people of Glasgow and the strike solidarity organisers on the first wave of national strike action that my members took in the RMT. There was demonstrations and strike solidarity organised in this city, and that sparked a wave of solidarity for strike action that went right around the country, so I'm bringing it back here to you tonight. Thank you. Solidarity Glasgow. Yeah. We are in a crisis, they say. The crisis is very simple. The prices of essential goods for working class people are too high, and the wages, benefits and pensions that working class people rely on are too low. And these things are not disconnected. We have seen in this country falling living standards for working class people for my whole life. And at the same time, profits have been growing and growing and growing. And that is because The people that run our economy have got an ideology. That means the market is king, privatisation is good, public ownership is bad. And these three things, high prices, high profits and low wages, that's the holy trinity of their religion. And these things are linked and related. We must pay 3, 4, 5 months of our take-home pay on energy because the market says so. We must pay half of our income on rent to profiteering landlords, and we can't have social housing because the market says so. We must have rubbish public services, debt if you want to be educated, because the markets say so. So they say. They talk about the market like it's some kind of great spirit in the sky, like it's some all-powerful ruler, and what it says must go. Well, I'm telling you now, we've got to pull the curtain back because the market has got names. They've got job titles. CEO. There is no mystery. There is no mystery. Profits are up because wages are down. And if you want wages up, profits have got to come down. There is no mystery. They talk about it on the news. They've got economists and commentators as if it's some kind of great mystery that no one can understand. Well, I'm telling you, it's that simple. We have to cap prices. We have to bring profits down and wages up. And we're going to get a working class movement in this country to deliver it. These people, the CEOs, the so-called market, the big multinational corporations, they're all doing very well. They're driving fancy cars. Shares in luxury goods are going through the roof. Champagne sales skyrocketing. Louis Vuitton skyrocketing. They're having a great time. And they're only able to do it because you're poor. That's the reality. And what they don't want, a mass of ordinary people in this country waking up to, is this simple fact. Without us, they've got no wealth. But without them, we can have a country fit for the people in it, and that's what I want to see. In Glasgow tonight, and in London, and in Bristol, and in any other city you care to mention, there are old people worried about the bills that they've got in front of them, who don't have social care when they're infirm to look after them. There are children who are going to bed hungry. There are parents worried out of their minds, paying extortionate rents. In every country, in every city in this country, that's the reality for working class people. And that's the reality for working class people, so the people at the top can live a life of luxury, and we have got to change that. It doesn't have to be this way. We can do much better. And it's the same with our public services. Either we can build homes for people to live in, or we can build investment opportunities for speculators. Either we've got an education system to teach our young people, or we've got a commodity for the rich to play with. And the same goes in energy and in water and in every other industry and public service we've got in this country. They say the market must rule, but the market can't run society. It can't run the trains right now. I'll tell you what, it can't feed the children. The market cannot keep our old people warm. It can't, but we can. We can do that, and that is what they're frightened of. My trade union has got a motto, and that motto is unity is strength. We know our strength comes from our unity as workers standing together, and as our unity as working class people coming together. And that is why they peddle division. They want to turn us against each other. They want the railway worker fighting the nurse, the teacher fighting the bin workers, So we're all fighting each other instead of the enemy that we've got in front of us. They're trying to confuse us and we can't let them divide us. There are members in the RMT union, hopefully some of them are here tonight. They've been out in national strike action now for some time, and we've called 2 more days of national strike action on the 15th and the 17th of this month, and I hope you come out and visit them on the picket lines. We're striking. We're in strike action because they're telling us, the people that kept this country moving during the health emergency, after 3 years of pay freezes, there's no money for us. And every single year, millions and millions and millions of pounds is taken out of our industry. It leaves this country. It goes to tax havens. It doesn't support the people in this country. There's money for that, but they tell us there's no money for workers. Now, we've got the media against us. We've got the multinational corporations against us. We've got the government against us. But we're saying, bring it on. We're not frightened here. If you want to take us on, we'll fight you. And if you want to take on the NHS workers, we'll fight you. And if you want to take the posties on, we'll fight you. And if you think you're going to let the old people go cold this winter, we'll fight you. They tell us that we've got to modernise in the railway. What they mean by modernisation is work harder, for longer, for less money, and that's if you're lucky enough to have a job. Well, we've got a different idea about what it means to be modern. And that means you get a wage you can look after your family on. You come home safe from work, and there's jobs for our children. And we're prepared to fight for that. Are you? We're in a unique moment. We're in a unique moment. I won't lie to you. I've never had 2 halfpennies to rub together. I'm in a good job for the first time in my life, and it's down to the union card in my pocket. My father was a seafarer. He's retired on a state pension, living in a council flat that's falling down around him without the services he needs. I've worked hard in my life, and I'm lucky to be where I am. I've been elected by the people of my union to do a job. But I'll tell you this, I've been waiting my whole life, to see a moment like this, when we can bring people together and make real change, and I really believe we can do it. There's something happening out there. I can feel it. I can feel it. This time is different. This time is different. We're not going to let them have it. No more. We're not going to let them do it anymore. We're going to stand together and we're going to make the changes that we need, and we're going to bring everyone in this country together. And I don't care what colour your skin is. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what your job is. As working class people in this country, we have got to look after each other and support each other. And I believe in this moment there's a change coming. I don't think there's clever arguments that have got to be made. And I know there's not a lot of analysis, and it's important to do that, and we say this is how much the profits are, and this CEO, he's got this much wages and all of that. I've heard all of that, and it's important. It's important to expose that. But I don't think you've got to make clever arguments to a single mother who can't afford the electric. I don't think you've got to make clever arguments for the old people you know in your communities who are worried about this winter coming and what they're going to do. I don't think you've got to make arguments for people who face the chop time and time again at work, and every time they put their head up, they get slapped back down. I think people in this country know it's wrong. They know what's wrong. What we've got to do is get them to act on it. We've got to take action together. And that is why I want to see the broadest coalition of trade unions, community activists, ordinary people who ain't in unions, coming together, demanding change, and then being prepared to take the action to see it through. I really think we can do it, and that's why I'm here tonight. I've come up on a train. I was lucky to get here, I'll be honest with you. Everything's an adventure with this government. But I have to tell you this. In the next week or two, They will bring forward legislation to restrict the rights of ordinary people to organise in trade unions and take action. And let me tell you what's really worrying these people. It is not a wage price spiral. That is a lie. They're not worried about you or me or my members getting a pay rise this year. What they're worried about is us having the ability to get a pay rise this year and next year and the year after. What they're worried about is a shift in class power away from the corporations to you, the ordinary people. That is what they're trying to do. They want to criminalise. Their priorities in this crisis right now, their priorities is to let profits rip, let prices go through the roof and to depress wages. And in order to make sure that that happens, they are prepared to criminalise dissent against poverty. Let's call it what it is. That's what they want to do. And that is why we've got to broaden people involved in this movement. We're going to fight them on the picket lines. Believe you me, we're going to fight them. But we've got to fight them in the housing estates. We've got to fight them in the communities. We've got to fight them everywhere. Because this time, they're not going to take the piss out of us anymore. Enough is enough. We're going to build the biggest wave of solidarity seen in this country in a generation. We're going to make sure our old people are warm in the winter. We're going to keep our kids fed. We're going to build an education system proud for our people, and we're going to do it together. So solidarity, Glasgow. Let's stick together, because united we can do it. Enough is enough.
Thank you, Eddie. Workers united will never be defeated. Workers united will never be defeated. Workers united will never be defeated. United will never be defeated. Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you to all the speakers, thank you to the volunteers. On your way out, please do stop by at the Live and Rent table. Please stop by at the Glasgow Strike Solidarity table. Please go to the STUC demo tomorrow. Please go to the picket lines for Royal Mail. Please go to the picket lines for the RMT, the BT Group, and the workers and local government if they don't accept the pay deal. Good luck to the EIS and their ballot, the teachers. And let's organise for the 1st of October. Let's go on the streets for the National Day of Action and get involved in the campaign. Solidarity.